Support provided by Walters, Papillon, Thomas Cullens, LLC, specializing in business litigation and personal injury cases for over 40 years.
Good afternoon. So first I want to start off by saying I want to apologize to the media. Where's the advocate at? I know the advocate is here somewhere. Where is she at? Advocate? Now, let me tell you why, because they were riding with me about a week ago when the federal government was in town, and we did a press conference on a grant, a 3-year grant we're going to receive. And I was talking a little too much and didn't realize the media was right there. And but I began to talk about the speech that I'm going to give to the Rotary. And I put a lot of thought into the speech. I thought it was a pretty good speech, by the way. You're not going to hear it. But I began to kind of set the tone on what I was going to talk about. And I think that one of the advocate reps may be here anticipating the speech that I was going to give. I see you back there. So first of all, let me apologize to you, because those 3 words that I was going to say, I am not going to speak today. And let me tell you why. Rotary, we are blessed to have a praying mayor. Don't ever underestimate that. Because the speech that I was going to give was directed at a lot of people who said a lot of negative things about me. It's going to be directed to people who pushed out misinformation, who I thought had an agenda, who were attacking my character in my police department. And my speech was going to be very pointed today. There were some emotions tied into it. And my ego was laid out somewhere in that paper. But thank God for a praying mayor. See, when our mayor talks about peace, progress, and prosperity, that's not a motto. That's something she believes in her heart. Some of you may not agree with all the decisions, but I'll tell you this, because in my short time, I've had an opportunity to be around leaders all across America. And we're blessed to have a praying mayor. And she sent me something in a scripture. And I received a text that said, your greatest test will be how you handle people who mishandle you. And I knew when I received that the words that I was going to say were not appropriate for today. I was stepping on my toes. We're thankful. So instead, that great speech filled with emotions and some highs and lows, it was a good speech, y'all. Oh, it was a good speech. We're going to put that one in the shredder. And there's a reason we're going to put it in the shredder. And I'll talk about that when I conclude. But first I want to start because I'm going to go over something very fast, and I'm going to try to speed through it because I have a lot of information to give. It's going to be based on facts, not emotions, because y'all business folks, and I know y'all can relate to that. But before I do that, because of what you're going to hear, I want to recognize them now because I know I'm going to get excited when I get to the end of my speech and I may forget. So will my staff please stand up? Yeah. They have been so supportive. And the good work you will hear about shortly is because of them and all the men and women who wear this uniform. Even with the shortages we have, you're going to hear some great work that's going on in the police department, and it's because of them. And let me tell you, I've thrown a lot at these guys and ladies in a very short period of time. So please give them another round of applause. And I also want to just acknowledge, because this last year, since I spoke here last time, has been quite stressful. in some, I used to have hair, believe it or not. But I want to recognize somebody who's been there for me, because, you know, God never said that the weapons wouldn't be formed. He just said that they wouldn't prosper. And there's been a lot of weapons formed. But I have somebody who's been supportive, who's been taking care of my kids. And I want to acknowledge Lori Claiborne for all of her support. You can stand up, baby. It's okay. I mean that. She helps me release that cup of stress. But let's get to it. So, you know, when I came here last year, and I talked about what were we going to be doing in the Baton Rouge Police Department, we started off with a 6-point high strategy. A mission organization, focused organization to reduce crime, placing more officers on the streets, improving community police relations, cultivating integrity and accountability, a plan for technology and equipment, listening to key audiences and developing relationships. It was that simple. It was a 6-point high strategy that my staff and I came up with. And we started doing that. We knew that in order for us to be successful, that we had to look at intelligence and try to find ways to develop the intelligence on that small group of people that we believe are responsible for a majority of the crime here in Baton Rouge. It's that same small percentage that's responsible for a majority of the crime in cities all across America. And that's what we began to do. And we did that through crime analysis. We took a data-driven policing strategies, working with our local federal partners in the district attorney's office with their crime strategy unit. We started off with quarterly task force operations. Those are very manpower intensive, very expensive. And we began to do focused deterrence efforts and custom notifications with our partnership with troops and other partners. And that's where, when we identify individuals that we believe are involved in crime, that have beef or have differences, then we engage them. We don't wait for that next shooting to start. We begin to engage them and tell them that if they don't change their lifestyle, that we're going to throw all our assets at them. And that's what we started doing in 2018. And we want to place more officers on the street. We began to consolidate positions, looking at some police administrative positions and see, do we need a police officer working in that role? Or could we hire a civilian, right, to handle that responsibility? We started our prisoner processing transportation team, where it was taking us around 2.5 hours to book somebody. Now we have those numbers down to around 45 minutes. We identified a central district that was essentially located throughout the city. We have a team there, so now the police officers get to drop those arrested subjects off, process them, and go back out there on the streets and patrol. So we got that down from 2.5 to 45 minutes. We had academy classes. Just had one graduate Monday. 26 highly motivated new Baton Rouge police officers. Recruiting efforts. You know, we have a full-time recruiting. Our recruiter before had a dual role. Not only was she involved in recruiting, but also in our crisis intervention stress management. So now we have 2 separate positions. We did a pay study with the help of our city council, with the support of our mayor. We went out there and we hired a company, and they said we are right around 29-30% underpaid compared to peer agencies. Just getting that report out there was a big step towards getting us a raise. And then the administration did something great. They hired this company called Management Partners to come in and look at how we do business at the Baton Rouge Police Department, also in other areas of city government. And they're doing an efficiency study. We believe that when that final report comes out, they're going to identify some areas where we can do better at, and we're going to be able to save dollars. And our goal is to take those dollars and move them towards getting our Baton Rouge police officers a well-deserved raise. We knew community police relations were key. That was that 3rd high point strategy. So what we began to do is we began to train in community policing through our partnership with the Collective Healing Grant. They sent a subject matter expert down to help train all of our police officers, supervisors in community policing. And then we began, and this last class was the first class to receive procedural justice training. And not only did they receive procedural justice training, we also trained the trainers. So we got police officers in our department who can now go out there and train others in the rest of the department on the importance of procedural justice. It was important for us to listen to others' concerns and other points of view because we are such a diverse Baton Rouge. But what we did, 304 community events last year. 304 community events. We did conversations with the cop, coffee with the cop, boxing with the badge, kicking with the badge, bingo with the badge, dancing with the badge, anything to do with the badge, we did it. I'm telling you. When you saw a community event, Baton Rouge Police were there, from our community canvases to our gun buyback programs to visiting barbershops and just say, let's have a conversation, young man. We did that in 2018. And we also got technical assistance from our National Public Safety Partnership and Collective Healing. Our fourth high point strategy was cultivating integrity and accountability. So what we did in 2018, we released a critical incident video evidence policy because we believe that sometimes there are incidents, and when those incidents began to through social media, a trend, get a lot of attention from the media, it was important for us to release that evidence early rather than later to prevent any type of civil unrest from occurring. We started our early intervention system because we know we have good police officers who sometimes make mistakes, and we wanted to identify those police officers early on who are not responding to training, who are not following policy, so that we can address it through coaching, mentor, training, and in some cases discipline. So we put that early intervention system in place. We changed our body-worn camera policy to make sure that it was in alignment with national best practices. We now have audits in place, and we have progressive discipline when police officers don't turn on their body cameras. We knew we were getting too many suits from the parish attorney's office. I get those accidents, so we realized that we have to do a better job in training. So now there's mandatory online training that we're actually going to implement training in our in-service on a yearly basis as well, not just online training, but also a practical training as well. We started an online complaint and accommodation system. We knew that making it easier for people, for the public, for the community to let us know how our police officers are behaving helps us, right, to identify those. So we made it easy. You can go online, you can go to our website, and you can file a complaint. And yes, we look at every single one of them. But right next to that button, there's a button that says commendation, where you can tell us the good work that our police officers are doing. That's what we did in 2018. We are in the process, we're going to be putting our policy online, because right now all of these media representatives here, the advocate, all of them, they can just send a public records request, and probably 90% of that information we have to give them. So you know what? Let's just make it easier. We're going to make it very transparent. We have absolutely nothing to hide. So we're going to be putting our policies online. Now, there are some parts of the policy that we can't put online, right? That those that could compromise officer safety or tactics, we will not be putting those policies. But those that we can, we will. We started a victims assistance coordinator. I had a meeting at the beginning of the year, and these were loved ones, family members, mothers and fathers who had lost a loved one to homicides. And I sat there, and we were at a Breck Center, and they vented. And they had a lot to say about the Baton Rouge Police Department not solving their loved one's crime. And when they finished, I said two words. Two words. I'm sorry. Those are the two words I said. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. And we began to have a conversation. And we began to talk about all of the crimes we solved and how can we work together to solving the crimes of their loved ones. And those same men and women, those same community members who are still suffering from the loss of their family members are now standing side by side with us at press conferences, telling the community they need to do their part. That same group are doing PSAs, public service announcements on gun violence in partnership with the district attorney's office and the sheriff's office. That's what they're doing. They've also formed a nonprofit organization where they're actually going out there in the community on their own, trying to interrupt this culture of violence. Training. Critical incident stress management. I talked about that earlier. We have a full-time position with our critical incident stress management team because we recognize that we ask a lot of our police officers. And like many, we don't like to say we're going through something. So we wanted to create an environment where our police officers feel safe to say, you know what, I'm human and I need a timeout. I need help without being ridiculed, without being judged. We're creating that environment in the Baton Rouge Police Department. And there are some officers who are taking advantage of it. And we know that it's going to help because we want them healthy. We want them mentally, spiritually, and physically prepared when they're out there responding to calls for services. That's what we did. in 2018. That fifth high point strategy I talked about was creating a plan for technology and equipment. Thanks to our city council, thanks to our mayor, they made sure we had money in the budget in 2018 because our fleet was below satisfactory, and we have new vehicles coming in. We're budgeted for vehicles this year that are already ordered and coming in. We also need to thank the crime district. What's the name of it? You sit on the board. The CADS. Help me out here. I was close. It started with a C. The Communication District for identifying the funding and committing funding to CADS. So for the first time in East Baton Rouge Parish, all first responders will be on the CADS system. All police, EMS, fire on the same CADS system. The reason that's important because all of that data and analytical exploitation that we can do with that to help aid in not just patrolling efforts, but in prevention measures as well. Records management system is the next phase. We're now all looking at the same RMS contractor. That is going to be big. There's not too many major cities in America that has all first responders on the same CADS and RMS. And then we started our public safety common operations picture. Our information services division started that before I got here. But what that is doing, it is creating dashboards to help us look at the data in ways that we've never looked at before, where we have crime mapping by district, by zip code, by council district, by crime district. We can look at data any ways that we want, from shots fired, from emotionally disturbed persons to overdoses to murders, supervisory dashboard on certain parts of the city. We have been changing this up so much, right? And all of this is going to be part of our real-time crime center that we are in the process of building, where we're going to be taking crime cameras, license plate readers, and partnership with business and residences who have cameras to give us access to your camera to help in our crime fighting efforts. This is going to be really big. That was our fifth strategy, but our last high point strategy that I think is the most important was gathering community views and gaining community trust, listening to key audiences. We started a chief advisory council this year. In 2018 we had our first meeting in 2019 formally, and this is community folks from around the city, some who represent organizations, and we meet with them. And I bounce things off them. I say, hey, we're gonna change this policy. What do you think? Give me some ideas. Is it right? Is it wrong? Give me your input. And we've been doing that, and we've been meeting, and they've been giving us some great ideas. And then we take those ideas, those that we can. Now, we don't agree on everything. Let me be clear about that. But what we agree on, and those things that are that we can change, we do it because they're partners and we're listening. We conducted community surveys, and despite what you might hear, the people of Baton Rouge love the Baton Rouge Police Department. I have the data to show it. We have regular meetings with stakeholders. We continue to assess perceptions in the community through some of these surveys. But our goal is to advance community policing to the level of a true partnership. That is what we did in 2018. And what happened because of that? This is the data that we report to the FBI, our uniform crime reporting data from 2017 to 2018. Property crime was down 7.74, violent crime down 9.58, robberies down, shots fired down 13%, assaults down 7%, burglary calls down 16.74%, homicides down 10.34%, violent crime down 11.47%, property crime down 6%. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. Those are facts. That's data. That's what happened. And what happened in 2019 when we started the year off, we said ready, set, go. We started a gun crime intelligence center working with ATF, working with the Sheriff's Office, LSP Crime Lab, so that we can respond to all shots fired incidents in a more timely manner, not just homicides. PSAs and education with family members of victims of violence. I just talked about that. That's what we did. Our focused deterrence efforts, violence interruption and intervention. We believe that's the key. Going to family members saying, hey, you need to do something about your family member. You play a role in helping us stop this culture of violence. Focusing on non-fatal shooting cases. Our East Baton Rouge Real-Time Crime Center. You know, we don't have enough analysts. That's why we're going before our city council, and we're going to be asking for 3 new analysts. Louisiana State University football team have an analyst for every team. Every team. So we want that type of analytical support in the police department. New technology. I talked about Peace Cop. We started Operation Pinpoint. I'm going to talk about that shortly because I think that is going to be the answer to addressing some of this crime. New records management system and CADs. All that started this year. New officers. 26 graduated on Monday. New recruits. Our recruiting efforts. We have 90, right around 90 that are already going through the process for the next class. And we have a test next week. And we think we're going to get even 90 more. So this whole saying that you hear, because it's easy to believe that nobody wants to be a police officer. Now, we just not meeting where they're at. We're looking for young folks who want to serve, and they're out there. We just have to find them. I don't believe that nobody wants to be a police officer. I got 90 going through the process right now, and we're going to have another 90 that's going to pass this test in another month. Y'all don't hear me. We just have to change our recruiting strategy. If our recruiting strategy is the same it was 15, 20 years ago, then maybe we're not meeting them where they're at. So we have a new recruiter. We started a telephone reporting unit. What you don't realize is sometimes we have officers on light duty. We have officers who may be under investigation, and we have to clear that up before they can wear that gun again. And they're on what we call administrative leave. Well, it used to be at home. Y'all probably heard about it. The Advocate wrote about it. They had WFB, all of them wrote about it at some point in time. Taxpayer dollars going to waste. Well, nobody sits at home no more. They sit in a room, a telephone reporting unit, and they take calls. And they help out, and we use those resources so that those officers who usually take those calls can go out there and provide the services that you need. So nobody sits at home anymore. That's what our telephone reporting unit. I talked about the Chief Advisory Council. We will continue in 2019 to focus on that small group. Critical Incident Stress Management is full-time now. Our National Public Safety Partnership, which is a grant we just received. It's not a grant, actually, it's support. Technical assistance and training is what it's going to be. Through the Department of Justice and our partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office, 3 years. We're going to be focusing on some of the best practices in support for our real-time crime center, looking at the gun crime intelligence center as well as non-fatal shootings are 3 main programs that we're going to be focusing on. Reserve officer program. We're in the process of putting that together as well. We've been getting a lot of interest from business folks such as yours who want to help and serve. They want to put this badge on. So if you want to be a reserve officer program, reach out to us, okay? All right? No, you can't be on SWAT, okay? You can't be on SWAT. I just want to say that right now, all right? Not on SWAT yet, but Explore program. These are future leaders, y'all. We have about 25 to 30 right now that are going through training. Young folks between the ages of, help me out now. 14 to 17. That's going to be our future police officers, y'all. We're going to guide them. We're going to mentor them. And we're going to train them well so that when this attrition comes, we already have a group of candidates to select from, okay? Some long term. That's what we did. Now, I only have 35 minutes, so I'm going to keep going right now. But I was going to show you the Peace Cop. It's exciting, but y'all don't need to see that. But let me talk about this. So this is what we did with Peace Cop. Peace Cop, that's all that data I was talking about. The first reports we will put out were called risk-based policing. That's what we started doing. And if you look at it, what it does is based on the data, it tells us where we can patrol to have a positive impact on crime, reducing crime. It's based on location. For example, if you read these reports, one is for night, one is for day. That's from February to April. It will tell you that if you patrol around convenience stores, you can have a direct impact on crime. If you patrol around certain areas where there were shooting incidents, and then it starts to get specific as it relates to the area and the time of the city, right? So what we did is we took this report and we saw some success early on this year, but we said we want to get even more detail. So what we did now is we got what's called Operation Pinpoint that we started, and we're going to be running that until the weekend after Labor Day. And I'm excited about this, y'all. So here's what we did. We took that data, we gave it to the Crime Strategy Unit, which is ran by our district attorney's office, and we began to take this. I give this as an example. This is just in the 1st district, and you see that area with the red dot. So we take all shooting incidents, and you can see we break them down by time, by date, and by street. And what happens is we take this data and then we come up with what we call patrol recommendations in the district. It's not about a district, it's not about a zone. We're getting very specific to the corner, the 100 block, and where you need to be. We tell you what time you need to be there on Sunday, Friday, and Wednesday from 1800 to 0200 hours. That is what we're doing now. We're getting very specific and we're pinpointing the areas where we want our officers to be. Now, that takes a little discipline, y'all. That takes a little discipline, right? Because, we like to patrol and get into things, but it's paying off. I'm telling you it's paying off, and it's paying off so much that I'm going to stand here today and tell you, wait till December. Wait till December. We're seeing the numbers, and we're excited about those numbers. So where we're at this year right now when it comes to homicides, right now, clearance rate on homicides is about 58% above the national average. That's where we're at. We're at about a 30% reduction in homicides this year. If you look at right here, when we compare this year, the only year we've had less homicides at this point was 2016 when we had the floods. Right now we have 33 actual homicides in the city of Baton Rouge. This is a breakdown of our homicides. Over 40% of our homicides either happen in somebody's house or in their yard. I want you to think about that. Most of our homicide victims are African American males. You can see 80% this year, about 83% last year. But we're taking data and we're breaking it down in every way we could. And here's what happened. This is our BRPD violent crime analysis. Right now, the crime for this year is down 10, almost 11%. That's going to be even greater by the end of the year. That's our violent crime. If you want to break it down specifically by description, from assaults, fights, kidnapping, robberies, sex offenses, shootings, shots fired, shootings, everything is down right around 9%. You see we have an increase in some stabbings and a 2% increase in sexual assaults. But overall, violent crime is down. When we look at violent crime here, total down 10%. That's from CAD's data. When we look at property crime is down. And every month, if you look at it, we compare it from 2016 to now, we're down 16% as compared to last year. Crime is down in Baton Rouge, despite what you're hearing. These are facts. This is CAD's data. And what history has showed us is that when we do the CAD's data and that UCR data, which we don't have out yet, we're still compiling that data. Our UCR data is usually consistent with CAD's, but it's usually lesser in most serious categories. Total property crime, when we look at burglaries, motor vehicle, robberies, vehicle, total down 7%, okay? Now, that's where we want to be. We're trying to set a new standard for policing and building trust with the community, because what we realize, the community is starting to step up. You hear us say, keep talking Baton Rouge, because we will never stop listening. We won't. It's important that we have those relationships. And, right now, not just here in Baton Rouge, but in America, there's too much negativity that's echoing in the air. Those with the loudest voices aren't always right. Those with the loudest voices aren't always right. And sometimes I feel like when I look at what's going on in the country and in other places, it's like we have a boat out at sea with no rudder to guide us. Rotary, we have to do better. I made a speech a couple of weeks ago that got a lot of attention. A lot of attention nationally. I didn't expect that, I'm gonna be honest with you. But what stood out to me was the difference in responses. And sometimes when I look at those who walked up and said, I appreciate what you said, Chief. Those who look at me a little different. Some don't speak to me now. A lot of it was down racial lines. Are we really that divided as a community? I'm going to ask y'all to repeat. And he didn't say it earlier, but I'm going to ask you to say it now. The rotary four-way test. What's the first one? What I said was the truth. It was facts. Have all the data, the reports to back it up. What's the second test?
They're all concerned.
The truth is always fair. It's transparency doesn't hurt us. It's acknowledging that we made mistakes and we have to move forward. What's the third test? Ask the lady who walked up to me when we were at bingo with the badge, with tears in her eyes, and say, "Thank you, Chief. I needed to hear that." Or the young man who walked up to me and said, "Chief, we appreciate your words." If you listen to what I said that day, and it didn't find its way in your heart where you believe that it can start some type of healing process, then just maybe, just perhaps you don't have the life experience that warranted such an apology. Maybe you don't have the life experience. That's okay, because we are a diverse group. That doesn't mean I don't love anyone else. I don't care about somebody else. It was for those individuals who experienced that. I apologize to everybody who experiences violence, homicides. Let me say that. Let me clarify on that. I call them. I say, "I'm sorry for your loss." Been doing that since day one. We got a homicide. We have a victim assistance coordinator who sends out a letter. So I apologize to every family member who's experiencing a loss. And yes, some of them may have had lifestyle choices that contributed to that incident. I still apologize, because they're still somebody. They're still loved by someone, and I don't apologize for that, y'all. I don't. But Baton Rouge, we have an opportunity to stop paying attention, to stop giving energy to those few people who for some reason have a platform to spread divisive words, to separate us. Because I don't care what color you are in Baton Rouge. I don't care your social status. And I know y'all got money here. We talked about that last time. But if we sit down and we talked about what we want, I can go to the most disinvested communities in Baton Rouge and sit down and have a conversation, and you sit down next to them, and you know what? We all want the same thing. That's facts. We may disagree how to achieve that or how to get there, but we have to stop as a community giving any type of energy to those naysayers, the negative people out there who are always trying to divide us, always trying to steal our joy. Don't give them energy. That's what I pray for our city. And I know we can get there, but the next time somebody brings that negativity to you, that energy, just tell them time out. Time out. I will never let anybody steal my joy. Nobody. But we have great things going on in the city of Baton Rouge. Great things. Y'all heard those numbers. Do your research and see how many cities in America are going to show you 2 years in a row we're going to have reductions in crime. And yeah, we still have a ways to go, but I am confident the work that the men and women of this police department, that when the end of this year comes, we're going to be saying, You know what? There's a lot of work to be done because it takes a long time to stop this culture of violence. But well done, Baton Rouge. Well done, community. And thank you, Rotary.
Support provided by Walters, Papillon, Thomas Cullens, LLC, specializing in business litigation and personal injury cases for over 40 years.